Yes, your baby is super unique and like, of course, your baby's the most perfect baby on the planet. And you probably think the reason your baby isn't sleeping well is like a super individualized reason. And I'm here to tell you, no, it really isn't. There's not that many reasons that babies don't sleep well. And anybody who's used to working with a lot of babies can pretty much nail down the reason very quickly, which is excellent news because it means it's not as hard as you think it is. So let's dive into the 10 biggest reasons that babies, toddlers on up till about 5 years old, let's say, have sleep issues. The first one is they're overtired. So this is pretty basic. There's a lot of articles about this. I have some myself. Especially when they're really little, you can get into what I like to call the dreaded overtired cycle, which is when they're too tired to eat, but then they're too hungry to sleep. Okay, so when babies are overtired, they just don't sleep as well. The whole like wear them out and then they'll sleep better is bad advice. It's just poor advice. So you don't want to do that. And actually, the better napping happens, the better they sleep throughout the night. So if babies have missed a lot of naps throughout the day, they're up late, they'll probably have a bad night's sleep. This is normal. So when you get them on a good routine, now I'll put it in the description box, a lot of age appropriate routines for babies on up to the 5 years that'll help them sleep better, okay? It really matters. Your routine matters. Oh no, am I skipping ahead? Okay, if they're overtired, they're not gonna sleep well. That's the first big reason. So the biggest way to bring this back, dial it back, this feels like a catch-22 because moms will be like, yeah, they're overtired because they won't sleep, but I can't get them to sleep, which is why they're overtired. Duh. I hear you. So keep listening. The second reason, which goes along with the first, why babies struggle to sleep well is because they're overstimulated. Or also, if they're overtired and overstimulated, in order to keep themselves awake and going, their body's actually producing stress hormones. So they're actually pumped full of adrenaline and cortisol. So like, ain't easy to go to sleep when you're on an adrenaline high, is it? No. And I'm gonna tell you, this is why I get antsy when people are like, it's actually mean to do sleep training, it's cruel. I have a whole video on why that's total baloney. But it's also, I want to say that moms who are working with really overtired little ones everybody's already in an altered state that's not that great. So this is when it's a perfect time to make a change, right? So if your little one is overstimulated, if there's tons of people around, past that early newborn age, they don't need to just be trying to sleep in the middle of a living room where there's like a ball game on and there's like 9 siblings playing monkey in the middle over the baby. No, they need to have their own sleep space, okay? They need to have their own sleep area that's conducive to sleeping, and this can bring down the stimulation. They need wind down routines. I have posts on wind down routines that help them calm down so that they can actually get into a sort of peaceful state in order to fall asleep. The third reason that little ones don't sleep well is they don't have good routines established. Like I said, go to the description box to get some routines. This is super important, and I'm gonna tell you why. It's because our bodies just get used to what we do. Think too, whether you're at work or when you were at school and there were certain times a day that you did everything, your body would literally get hungry to like within 5 minutes of when you're used to eating, because your body gets used to it. Your metabolism, your body clock, everything. So when you have a routine, your baby's body will work with the routine. They will get tired when it's time to take a nap. They will get hungry when it's time to eat. They will be drowsy when it's time for bed. If your baby's schedule is all over the place, it's totally random, and you're like trying to live like go with the flow best life, and baby won't settle, like this is why they actually need, it's not that big of a sacrifice for you to make for a short period of time to give them a routine that you can carry out. And you don't have to like watch the clock all the time, but they need good wind down routines. They need good daily routine that their body can recognize. And then it's also, there's so much less mystery for you because you know why they're doing what they're doing. Like I used to be able to just hear a little cry and then I would think, oh, yep, baby's up, time to feed. It would just be to the minute. Sometimes my little ones would literally nap to like the minute that their routine was. And this was no laying in bed, there was no crying. Actually, the better routine they're on, there is so much fewer tears. I mean, like so few tears on happy, well-rested babies. So the fourth reason that babies don't sleep well is inappropriate wake times. I actually have a cheat sheet on wake times you can get in the description box. Wake times are how long a baby should be awake. This is the tip though. You calculate a wake time based on when they start feeding until when they go down to sleep. So say you're starting to feed them at 7 a.m. and they go to bed, they go down to nap at 8:30. That's an hour and a half wake time. It's not from when they're finished feeding. It's because they should be feeding awake. So that's how you calculate the wake time. And so you want to make sure that the wait time isn't too big. A newborn shouldn't be up for 4 hours. No, they shouldn't. And if they're up for 4 hours in the night, then they're going to want to sleep all day, and this is how they get day-night confusion. So you want to make sure that the wake times that they're, you know, how long they're awake during the day between naps or bedtime is age appropriate. And it is a time that means they don't get too overtired. I am a certified baby, toddler, and sleep consultant, and I have a lot of materials out there free on my website. And I also have best-selling masterclass called Sleep Little Lamb for babies aged newborn up to 5 years old. Definitely encourage you to check that out if you're at, you know, sort of the end of your rope, because we can get you there. They have a lot of like 5-star reviews that just like, boom, this helped me immediately. I just want to encourage you can get there. So check that out in the description. The 5th reason that babies struggle sleeping, and this is because of their sleep props or sleep association. So this means that they need something from you to get them to sleep. They can't go to sleep without it. They have no control over whether they can get to sleep or not. And then if they wake up or they're transitioning through an active to passive sleep cycle and you're not there giving them that thing they needed, they just can't do it. So actually, we can tend to think like, it's great and giving that we're doing these things to get our kids to sleep, but what we actually have done is rob them of the ability to get to sleep on their own. Imagine if you were tired and you just couldn't go to sleep on your own. You just literally couldn't make it happen because you needed somebody else to be there to do something for you. This is not nearly ideal. What is ideal is if your little one's tired, they can literally just fall asleep. This is the way that we want it to be. And so that's partly why when you're doing some kind of more formal sleep training, you're literally teaching them to get to sleep on their own, right? This might be hands-on. There's so many ways to do this. Like, don't even at me that this is cruel. Like, I can't even. I'll tell you what's cruel is that like having a baby who's like screaming and crying and totally exhausted, and you're doing that for like your own kind of like maternal guilt. Don't send me hate mail. So the way, of course, that whenever you're doing a formal intervention is to kind of remove those sleep props and help and be there to support and love and show your baby how to be able to get to sleep without that. Those, of course, include things like rocking, nursing to sleep, you know, riding, sitting in a bassinet, being carried in a sling, whatever. And in these early days, these things are normal. We're only calling it, you know, a sleep prop, a sleep association if this lasts for a long time. It's truly affecting their sleeping because they just can't connect these sleep cycles because they need you. The 6th reason little ones don't sleep well is medical discomfort or physical discomfort. Now, sometimes this is just the truth, you know, if they're having tummy problems. My cousin recently had a baby and I was going back and forth with her about, you know, at first she really thought it was something sleep related. He wasn't sleeping. And as I got to talk with her and got details, I was like, I just really think this is way too much drama about sleep. Like, I just don't think his tummy is right. And she dropped out a couple of foods and boom, baby boy would take a nap. And so sometimes if they're just not well, they ain't gonna sleep, right? And now this does not include, okay, I'm gonna say one thing. Sometimes when they're really right about to pop a tooth, of course, they're feeling, you know, not great and they're in a little bit of pain. But babies are sort of teething off and on for years. So if you're using teething as an excuse for them not sleeping for years, it's not teething. That's just not what it is. So, but if your little one is always sleeping well and stops, this is nearly always either a growth spurt or some kind of physical discomfort. But I definitely encourage you to rule out. I have a post on 10 or 12 reasons, medical things that stop babies from sleeping. I definitely encourage you to rule out anything medical before you do a more formal sleep intervention because you will never be able to stick with it if you truly think baby is in pain. The 7th reason that kids struggle to sleep is because they can't transition through sleep cycles. So it is natural that we go from active to passive sleep throughout the night. And in fact, our deepest point of sleep is this like 7, 8 p.m. on till up about midnight time. So sometimes babies who really don't sleep well at night do well until about 1 a.m. and then they do very badly until like 4 or 5 a.m., right? And that's because at the time, right there before midnight, we actually do just sleep better. So babies who can't get to sleep on their own also can't easily transition between active and passive sleep because this is, imagine that time at night that you're kind of rolling over a little bit and then you go immediately back to sleep. This is the time where if your little one needs you, they have a job to do. If their job to do is make sure mommy's there giving me that thing that I need. If they kind of do a little rollover and then they're like, oh, mommy's not here, I need to have a job to do. I need to get that thing back. Then they have to wake up and cry to alert you and they have to get you back doing that thing they needed you to do. This actually prevents deep sleep because the minute they woke up, they need you back to get back to sleep, right? So this is why we teach them to sleep independently on their own in a variety of ways so that when they're transitioning, they can keep sleeping. This is why babies take super short naps and then they, you know, or they're waking up every 2 hours, like so they're waking up every 45 minutes or an hour for a nap. That's a short nap. At night, it's about 2 hours. If they're waking up about every 2 hours overnight, those are both signs that they can't transition through their cycles on their own. The 8th reason that little ones don't sleep well is because they're hungry. This is why one of the first things you could do is make sure if your baby's little that they're not snacking, that they're actually eating. They're eating a full feed. You're topping them off their feed. They're not just like 3 minutes falling asleep, 3 minutes falling asleep. This is not enough food. Or if it is, and you can keep feeding them like this around the clock, okay, but that just doesn't work for long because they also won't sleep well because they're in the dreaded overtired, or in this case, dreaded hungry cycle where they're too tired to keep feeding as much as they need to, but then they're too hungry to keep sleeping as much as they need to. So you need to give more food. And often at the 7th month mark, I have a lot of moms who are like, I'm having trouble, baby won't sleep. He used to sleep, now he won't sleep, but they're not giving him any solids, or he's not taking many solids. So he's hungry and he wakes up because he wants more food. And so this is why it's a good idea with your pediatricians, whatever, introduce solids and keep at it. Keep at it to where, or add in more nursing sessions if they're taking longer, get up with the solids, because if they are not having enough food and they are hungry, they are not going to sleep through. We never sleep train through a little one waking up because they wanted to eat. No! And as they get older, they need to eat more. So, and it depends on, some moms are just absolutely gobsmacked how much the little ones will eat. And some babies are like birds. But you just, if they've always slept well and then struggle at this age when they need solids, it's because they're hungry and they need more food. And that's just key. And if they're always snacking all day, and I have a post on babies like snacking all day and not sleeping. And that's because they're in that cycle. They need to stop snacking, they need to take a full feed, and then they'll sleep better. The 9th reason that babies don't sleep well, or little ones don't sleep well, is their temperature's not regulated, or they're cold maybe. I remember with my second, I'm a mom of 5, he was waking up and I was thinking, I was like trying to rule out all these sleep issues, and then I was like, I think baby's cold. So I put an extra layer over him and that solved it. So you want to make sure they're warm enough at night and then they're not waking up cold, right? Of course, we don't want to overheat them. You're gonna go with whatever the Pediatric Association said is the proper window for sleep, but you want to make sure they're not cold, or you want to make sure they're not hot. So this is something to at least rule out. And the 10th reason that your little one might not be sleeping as well as you'd like is they're going through a growth spurt or a wonder week. So let me say this caveat though. This really mainly applies to if your little one has been sleeping well and then stop. That's when you think, okay, they're growing, like it's a growth spurt, it's a wonder week, there's some developmental leap, or they're not well. Because it was all fine and then it stopped, okay? But it's typically not these things if your little one has just never really slept well. So if they've never really slept well, then it's not that it's just a growth spurt or a wonder week, or it might be, but that isn't going to fix the issue. So the way to get through those is just to keep going through those. If it's a growth spurt, of course you're going to feed more and you feed more often. If it's a wonder week, you're just going to keep at it, keep doing the same thing you were doing. Help them if they're practicing any skills. If baby's not sleeping well because now all of a sudden they're standing up or crawling around their crib, this is excellent news. They'll get over it. They'll get over the novelty of it. Make sure they have lots of opportunity to practice and exercise while they're actually awake and playing around, and they'll get through that. Don't drop a nap too early just because of a wonder week. That's a danger. Some moms are like, oh, it's 12 months. They guess we'll just drop the first nap. And it's a bit early to go down to 1 nap. Some babies can do it, but it can be a bit tricky because they still need a little bit of a nap in the morning. So wonder week doesn't necessarily mean something needs to change, and it can go and come quickly. So what I want to encourage you on, if you're feeling like that, first of all, if you're feeling like it's never going to solve itself, it will. There are solutions. You feel like it's a mystery. It's not that big of a mystery. It might be to you, but only because you're so close in it. It really isn't, and it can be solvable. This is a huge one. A lot of moms feel like they can't teach their baby to sleep and maintain the values they have as a mom. That breaks my heart. That's not true. There are so many ways to teach your little one to sleep that don't compromise whatever your parenting, values are. Sleep training is not torture. It's not. So I want to encourage you that whatever feeling you're having, you can help your little one. Make sure to check out my next video on, it's like 20 or 25 of the most frequently asked questions regarding baby sleep.